Hello, I'm Jordan. I'm going to talk a little bit today about Macbeth, which I reread last week in preparation for the new film directed by Joel Cohen, which I think is out now. I haven't yet seen it, but I'm looking forward to that. It's kind of funny. I think I remember hearing about it and that it was in pre-production back in 2019, I believe. In fact, I have a friend who auditioned for a kind of a bit part in it, and then of course COVID hit, and I think the production got delayed for a while, which felt very, very appropriate, considering that this play, of course, has a reputation for being very unlucky. In fact, in some theater circles, people won't even say its name; they refer to it as the Scottish play. So it felt quite appropriate that that happened the way that it did. But I'm looking forward to seeing that, and so I reread this play, and I must say that this has never been one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. I've always been a little puzzled by how revered it is, and that opinion was only solidified in my rereading of it last week, which is not to say I don't like the play. I do think it's quite good. I just think it's kind of one of his weaker tragedies for a few reasons. First of all, I think I've mentioned in the past that, in my view, Shakespeare has two kinds of plays, not as far as genre, but in terms of uh, execution. And those are the kind of sprawling, all over the place, messy plays, and the very tightly controlled and structured plays. And there are good and bad examples for each of those. But this is certainly in the second category. This is, I think, Shakespeare's shortest play, and it is very, very tightly structured. There's not a single unnecessary scene in here, which is certainly more than can be said for a lot of Shakespeare's plays. But I don't think it works all that well. Partly because the passages in this play that should be super powerful aren't very good, I think. And I'm talking about the passages with the witches, who are kind of the chorus of the play, you could argue. And Shakespeare wrote the supernatural so well in other plays. I just think it falls flat in this one. I get the impression, and I don't know this, but I get the impression that Shakespeare did not write those sections, or that he lifted those sections almost word for word from his sources, which is something he did elsewhere. He didn't have any qualms about plagiarizing. In any case, I don't think those sections are as effective as they could be, and as a result of how short and brief and just how kind of stripped down this play is, you really only get two interesting characters, in my opinion, and those are, of course, the Macbeths, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. But they are very, very interesting characters, particularly in their relationship to each other. Harold Bloom has said that the Macbeths have the only happy marriage in all of Shakespeare. I'm not sure if I would go that far, but I think there is something to that, in that they do complement each other in a very engaging way. They're very good for each other, even if they are kind of both damned by their own actions. And the way that they are damned, kind of what I was noticing this time, is that it seems to manifest in both of them as sleep disorders, which I thought was fascinating. Macbeth, especially, Lady Macbeth, of course, becomes a sleepwalker, and Macbeth himself suffers from insomnia. And the more I was thinking about that, the more I feel like it kind of ties in with the other core trait of the Macbeths, which is that they're childless. They don't have any children. And the idea of generations and children and posterity in the future is central to this book. And I think that ties in with sleep, in the sense that by becoming an insomniac, Macbeth, in a sense, loses his future, because sleep in this play, I would argue, represents kind of renewal and rebirth and kind of rejuvenation and kind of an ability to proceed into the future. And Macbeth loses that ability, and of course, the great irony is he loses it because he is so preoccupied with the future, so obsessed with the future. And of course, I think that's reflected in one of Shakespeare's most famous soliloquies, and perhaps my favorite of all of Shakespeare's soliloquies. Certainly the bleakest, I think, that I know of. I'm going to go ahead and read it. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, but it's too good to not read. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Uh, I think that that passage kind of exemplifies this play at its best, and it's very stripped down, bleak best. I don't think that this play is Shakespeare's darkest. I've heard it called that. I think that would have to go to Lear, but certainly there is a sense of doom and dread to this play that is quite powerful and upsetting. Macbeth feels more tragic in a lot of ways than a lot of other Shakespearean characters because he feels so um, just such a victim of his circumstances and of fate in a way that other Shakespearean characters are not. Granted, he does make very, very terrible, immoral decisions, but he's goaded on and guided these decisions by agents outside of his control, which I think is interesting and a little bit unusual. Lear, for example, doesn't have that level of fate conspiring against him. I don't think. But anyways, so yeah, I have mixed feelings on Macbeth. I do like it. I don't quite understand how revered it is, like above other Shakespeare plays that I think are much better. But certainly it is worth reading. And if you're new to Shakespeare, I think it would be a very good place to start because it is a very good play, and it's also his shortest play, and it's also not particularly dense in its language, I don't think. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Othello. Let me know what you guys think of it, and thank you for watching. Have a good day.